Okay. Can you see my screen? Can you hear me well? Business as usual, the usual questions. All right. I'm good. Thank you, Rod. Can you hear me? Okay, dokie. So today we're not going to do anything new. I'm going to walk you a little bit through the process of the exam for today. I know you're nervous, you're anxious, and that's normal, but we'll try to walk you through the process again. And then we could do, some question answering, or we could do, an exercise or two from the mock-up exam if you want. Okay. So first of all, the exam, the second exam, which is today at 5, it's very similar to the first one. Okay, so we'll have to use the lockdown browser as the first one, and you will be proctored via your cell phone cameras. So please check the Moodle page, the meta page, at least an hour before the exam to see which room you're supposed to be joining. Yeah, so you use the WebEx room from your cell phone, join it from your cell phone, and the TA will be proctoring you. So they will ask you to turn your camera on, and might ask you at any point to turn the camera down to make sure you're working on your own and doing things yourself. Okay, so that's the first thing regarding proctoring, like last time. Second thing is, again, like last time, the exam is going to be one question at a time. So you can go back or navigate between the questions. So you have 3 questions for this exam in an hour. You have to finish them in an hour, and you will get a question, solve it, then you can press next, next problem or next page, and that will take you to the next question, and you can go back to the first question. So you need to really think about the time, manage your time well. So you have an hour, you have 3 questions. You should, on average, give a question 20 minutes. Here is what I would do. I would, read the question for a couple of minutes, just read it multiple times, try to understand it. Maybe take 3 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes to write down a solution on a piece of paper using, for instance, the example provided. Try to think about the steps, the algorithm, yeah? And then spend the rest of the time working out the code. Okay, you would be allowed in this exam to run your code. So we have an editor where you can type code like the previous time, and it does indentation, does all the sorts of things like any other editor. But you will also be able to press a button called check, which will run your code, the code you've written so far, checks it against some sample input, and give you back what is your program producing versus what is the actual output. Okay, so this will allow you to debug your code, make sure that it's working, but be careful because that could consume a lot of time. Yeah, so you need to, again, at some point say, even if I'm not getting the solution 100% correct, I'm gonna move on. Yeah, don't spend the whole hour just trying to figure out what the first question is, or get it to work right. Yeah, so you need to consider the time, and the debugging time might consume some of your time compared to the previous one where you didn't have to debug. So you just believe a solution and you put it and you see. Okay. You can press multiple times, check the check button, so there is no problem at all with checking, writing code, checking it, and then if it's not working exactly as you intend or as intended, you can update it and check again. There's no problem. You can do this as many times as you want. Okay. What else? Again, there's no penalty for checking, so you can do as many checks as you want. There's no problem at all. Just make sure that you don't overcome the time. Now, what is important is the following. It's not about just the code being correct. You might not be able to solve the question entirely, or not be able to produce the intended output, but you still get a very high grade on your solution. So really try to write code. Don't leave a question empty. Try to write as code for every question. Yeah, and the closer the code is to the actual solution, even if it has some bugs or some issues, the higher your grade will be. But don't leave a question. Otherwise, you're not going to get any grades. Okay. Also, don't be too obsessed about the output from the checker versus your output. Your output could be correct, but let's say the list has elements in a different order. Yeah. So don't get too hooked up on producing exactly the output that the checker would produce. Yeah. So even if the output is slightly different, it could be correct, but just the elements are in different order depending on how you're accessing elements, etc. Okay. Try to make sure your code is clear, what you're trying to do. If you want to add comments, but don't spend too much time on this. Again, write 3 questions. All of them have the same weight, so try on average to take 20 minutes per question. Let's talk about the following, right? Internet connection. Some of you have had internet connections, so you got disconnected. That's not a problem. If you get disconnected, all you have to do is go back, to the exam, try to take it, and it will take you back to the place you stopped. Yeah, so there's no problem. The time would, if you get disconnected, the time will continue. So please, if you get disconnected for more than 2 minutes or something like this, inform your TA, your proctor, so that we could provide you with some extra time. Yeah. So please, as soon as you get back online, tell the person, right, that you're back online and exactly when you got disconnected, so we could see if it's worth giving you some extra time. The lockdown browser might ask you, 1 second, please, let me finish and then I'll take questions. So the lockdown browser might ask you to close all the applications. So you might have to launch it twice. So you say yes, but then it fails to close some applications. Just go again to the exam, try it again. The next time it should work. That's the first thing. Second thing, sometimes when you load the exam for the first time, the editor is not working. You can press check or refresh, and it should start working. The editor, it will indent automatically and start checking that. Yeah, so you can do that. Okay, questions?
You're saying if it disconnected, نطلع برات the lockdown browser and launch it again?
Yeah, so just close the thing, right, and go back to the attempt again. Yeah.
Okay. So it will start wherever we hit.
Yes, it will start wherever you. And the only issue is that it will, the time you are disconnected is considered part of your attempt. Yeah. So we might, if it's too significant, we'll deal with it on a case-by-case basis. Okay. Other questions? Okay. Please do not panic. The exam is not difficult. Most of it is really relatively easy, and you just need to be calm and to kind of think about the problem modularly. So try to think, okay, this is how I would solve it manually, and then translate this into code. Yeah, you might want to write a couple of functions to help you and so on. Yeah, so just please don't panic. Okay. Any other questions about the exam? Please have your ID with you so that, and try to get into the proctoring room around 10 minutes before the exam so that the TAs can authenticate you and make sure that you are the actual person who's supposed to take the exam. Okay? Questions? Great. Okay, do you have questions about the material, concerns? I want this to be a discussion rather than, like just a regular lecture.
I was wondering if we could solve exercise 3 from the mock test.
Sure. Christina, yes, you want to ask about the assignment. Which assignment? Simon said that's the recursion. Okay. So we have two questions. One is the third question from the mock-up, and I have to figure out which question it is, and then sensor. Any other things? So Rawad is saying, yes, it's fine. We can submit it slightly late. It's okay. Yeah, so it didn't be a problem. Other questions? Okay, so let's start with the mock-up exam, the third question, and then we move to the sensor. So can you please remind me what was the third question, Jad? If Jad was the one asking, I forgot.
My question?
Yeah, which one? Do you remember which one was the third?
The magic one.
The magic one. Okay, no problem. So here it is, right? Here is one possible solution for this exercise. So what do we have? We have an input, which is a list that is of length n squared, right? For example, something like this. That's the input to the program. Yeah, I give it a list, a flat list. Only thing I know is that it's a square. Yeah, so it's 9 elements, 4 elements, basically 16 elements, and so on. That's what I'm given. Yeah, and I want to represent this list, break it down. The first step is to break it down into a table, right? A list of lists where each one has a length of, square root of n. Okay, so far so good. And then once I do this, I want to check, the sum of all the rows is equal to sum of all the columns and then of the diagonal. Yeah, that's really the case. If it is all the rows sum to the same value as each other and all the columns sum to the same values as the rows, and then the diagonal also sum to the same value, then I print true, otherwise I print false. Okay? Good. So here's what I did, right? First thing is I want to get this n. Yeah, you give me a list which has 9 elements, 16 elements. First step was get n. Right? So I used math to square root. Okay, so I just got, if the list has 9 elements, then n would be 3. So I need 3 rows and 3 columns. And then I constructed this empty list square that's going to contain a list of lists. So if n is 9, then I would create a list of 3 lists, and each one of these lists contain 3 elements. So far so good? Okay, so I'm looping, right? I know I have to loop over the elements from up till 3. I know that's right. I have 3. I need to create 3 sublists because n is equal to 9. So 3 sublists, and each one contains 3 elements. So I'm doing a nested loop. First one is, right, to create the rows, and the second one is to create the values, to put the values inside the rows. Okay. So here is what I'm doing, right? I have for I in range of n. Each time you're looping, you're adding 1 sublist. Now I want to fill this sublist, right? For I equals 0, for I equal 1, and for I equal 2. So I'm going to loop over, again, I know that this sublist would contain 3 elements because n is equal to 3. So I'm going to append the following. L of I times n plus 3. What is that, right? Why did I do that? Let's see it. Yeah? I have the following. I have these elements, 8, 1, 6, 3, 5, 7, 4, 9, 2. So I want to create a sublist. What I want to get out of this is the following. Something like this. A list which contains 8, 1, 6 as a sublist, and then 3, 5, 7, and then 4, 9, 2. Okay, correct? That's what I want to do. Okay. So here's the phenomenon. I created, right? I loop 3 times, and each time I create one of these sublists. So the first sublist, what is the first element here? That's L of 0 and 0. Okay. Sorry, L of 0. I have list is flat, so L of 0. This guy is L of 1. And this guy is L of 2. Okay. Sure. Give me a second, I'll scroll up. Here. Okay, but this thing is not gonna be. Jad, so I scrolled, but the problem is, right, I wrote this down. You should be able to see it as well, right? It doesn't matter, yeah? So we won't take it as L of 0. What do you mean we won't take it as L of 0, Christy? No, the input is what? The input is a flat list, yeah? The input is a flat list, and then I wanna convert it into a list of sublists, yeah? So I'm doing the following. The first 3 elements are going to be L0, L1, L2. The second list would have L3, L4, L5. Yeah. So this is what I'm doing here. If you look at the code, I'm saying append I initially was 0, so I have 0, 1, 2, and then I will become 1, so I have 3, 4, 5, and then I is 2, so I have 6, 7, and 8. Okay, just simply what I'm doing. Let's try this function out, and then I will take questions about it before we continue. So I do the square, and then I say print square, right? I'm gonna comment this out. Okay, let's run it. No, CV. Never mind. CV Dropbox. Give me a second. I don't know why it doesn't scroll. Yeah, here we go. God damn it. I'll change its name, so just forgot how to use I think it's a slash, but let's never mind. Okay. CD exam 2 underscore markup. Okay. Here Python exercise 3.py, and here is what it prints, right? 816 357 492. Anybody doesn't understand this first function? All I did, right, looped over the elements and just added 3 sublists. Each one contained, 3 elements going in order. Is this okay? All right, let me clear. Let's try the next one. So what do I need to do next? I need to do the magic, right? Check if every row, the sum of every row is equal to the sum, of every column equal to the sum of the diagonals. Okay, so let's try this out. How do I write this? I have now a list of lists, right? So basically 3 sublists with each 3 elements in this example. Okay, so again, I'm getting the n, which is the length of my list, right? Now a list would contain 3 elements, which each one is a list of 3 elements. And then I'm saying, okay, magic sum, I'll start with some variable called magic sum. It's the sum of the first row, yeah? And then I'm gonna check every row, is it the same as the, this magic sum? Why the index I plus n? Do it, right? How else would you do it? You can do it, I guess, in any other way. But here, I mean, one way of doing it is to say, I want the first sublist to have the elements 0, 1, 2. The second sublist to have the elements, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So this is how I did it. You can also do it, right? So you loop over all the elements and then make sure that, every 3 elements you create a new sublist. You can also do it this way. Doesn't matter. The whole point is that, right? I want to get, n elements in one sublist and then create another sublist and add n elements in it. There's various ways of doing this. Yeah? This is just one way of doing it. Right? Okay. Yes, L is the given list. Go ahead, chat. Yeah. Can we write what? Row of L dot append L of J. Row of I, you mean? Row of I dot append L of J. Row is initially empty, right? So I'm not sure what you mean by this. Row of I dot append L of J, right? I don't know if, I here I'm creating row as an empty string, so it doesn't have any elements yet. Right? That's why I'm, try it out. Yeah, I mean, you can try it, right? Like open your Visual Studio and try it. Yeah, it's pointless to try it together and then it's not working, or it's working. Like there's no point of this. Yeah, we will spend the whole time just trying things out. Here's just one solution, possible solution. If you have another solution, try it out yourself. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the magic one. So here I did what? I got the sum of the first row. I'm going to keep track of it, right? To check if every other sum, whether it's a row or a column or a diagonal, is equal to that one. So how do I sum the rows? If you have the list is like this. How do I sum these rows? I did the first thing is just sum L of 0. Remember the function sum L of 0, right? L of 0 is a list. So sum the elements of the list. So it's going to give me 50. How do I sum the next row and the next row? Yes, we can do a for loop for I in range of n. If sum of Li not equal to magic sum, return false. Yeah. So basically, of course, the first I could even do this from 1 because I already computed the first step, but it doesn't matter. I'm saying the following, right? If you find any row whose sum is not equal to this, the sum of the first row, then I return false. So it's not a magic matrix or a magic table. Okay, so that's summing the rows. How about summing the columns? So here are the rows, right? These are the ones. I'm summing each one of these guys by simple loop over these 3 sublists. How do I sum the columns? I want to sum 8, 3, and 4. And then 1, 5, and 9. And then 6, 7, and 2. So basically, I want to sum the following: 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0. Then I want to sum 1, 1, 2, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. Then I want to sum 0, 2, 1, 2, and 2, 2. Right? That's the columns. So here's how I did it. Right? I said the following. Right? So I did a nested loop, and then I sum L of J I. Right? I add this sum, accumulate this sum. Yeah, but the exam, right? So the mock-up exam, in my opinion, is more difficult than the original one, the actual one. The whole point of the mock-up exam was to just give you, experience with the environment. Don't worry about the mock-up exam at all. Yeah, like it just was to make sure that the environment is working, that you're used to what's happening. The exam, the mock-up exam, I agree, is way more difficult than the actual exam. Okay. So here's summing of the columns. Again, I do L of 0, 0, L of 1, 0, L of 2, 0. Okay. So I'm looping and I'm summing L of Ji, accumulating L of Ji in my column sum. The first time it's going to be J is from 0 till 2 and I is 0. So I'm going to do 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2. Okay. No, sorry, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, which is the first column. And then the next time I would be 1, and I'm going to do 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, and then 2, 1. So that's the second column, and so on. And then I check if this is equal to my magic sum or not. Okay, so I did the summing of all the rows, summing of all the columns. How do I sum the diagonal? So I want to sum 8, 5, and 2. What do I do? How do I go through the diagonal? Can do 1 for loop, exactly. When I is equal to 3, exactly, right? So when I is equal to L of I, exactly, right? So sum of the diagonal would be, okay, loop over the, these 3 sublists. So for I in range of N, and sum L of I, right? I is going to start with 0, so I'm summing L of 0, 0. Then I is equal to 1, so I'm summing L of 1, 1. Then L of 2, 2. And then I check again, is the sum of the diagonal equal to the sum of the rows, the sum of the columns? If not, I return false, otherwise I return. Okay, I know this might seem difficult, but again, the whole point here is this, double, how do I access, a list of lists, so a nested list, right? And you can do this double indexing as we've discussed before. Let's try that. Okay, so print magic score. I'm gonna do Python exercise3.py, and it should print true. Did I save it? Why is it not printing? Print magic. Why is it not printing? What is going on? Am I not in the right place? I don't know. Give me a second, Nisreen, but let me see. I don't understand why this is not writing correctly. Have I saved or not? Something is weird. Let me close it. We're saving somewhere else. Okay, we're working on another exam. This one. Okay. Here. All right. I'm gonna try it. Should work now. Okay, so it prints true. So the other diagonal. Okay, so you're saying from the other way around, from 6, right? So let me just. You have 8, 1, 6, 3, 5, 7, 4, 9, 2. So you're saying, okay, 8, 5, 2, but you have to also do the 6, 5, 4. Okay, yeah, makes sense. So this is something that I missed. Okay, how do you do it? Tell me, Nisreen. So you would do what? You want the opposite, right? You're doing for I range of, right, n minus 1 all the way till 0, right? And minus 1. Does that make sense or no? Diagonal sum. I'm gonna update diagonal sum to 0. Yeah, just the top of my head, right? Diagonal sum is equal to 0, and then diagonal sum plus equal, right? L of I. Okay, let's see if that makes sense. Do if diagonal sum not equal to magic sum, return. Let's see it for 1 second row. So here I'm gonna do the following. I'm gonna start with L of 2, 2. That's the smallest element, and then L. No, it's not gonna work, right? Yeah, exactly, right. It is doing the reverse one. So what do we want to sum? We want to sum L of, let me see, 2, 0, and 2, and then L of 1, 1, and then L of 2, 0, right? So this is what we want to do. Yeah, I think you're saying what you're saying, Nisreen, is right. So L, we want to start with L of 0, right? So I'm gonna do it like this. Right. We want to start, you're saying L of I and N minus I. That's what you're saying, correct? Let's see. So it's gonna be 0 and 2. 0 and 2, right? And then it's gonna be 1 and 3 minus, 1, and then it's gonna be 2 and 0. Does that make sense? That's right. So here is what I did, right? So this is what based on Nisreen's suggestion, right? So it's saying the following. I'm gonna start with 0, and then n3 minus 0, that's 3, minus 1, 2. So I'm doing the last element in the first sublist. And then I'm doing what? I'm doing 1 and 3 minus 1, that's 2, minus 1, that's 1. So L1, 1, that's the middle L. And then the next one would be L of 2, right? Because I is equal to 2. And now N, which is 3, minus 2, that's 1, minus 1 is 0. Should work. That's right. Thank you, Nisreen, for pointing this out. Okay, as also does. Okay, don't get too panicked about this exercise. Just if you want, you can try it again after the class. You can find the code, right? So we're not going to post the code for this. The lecture is recorded. If you want to look at this, you can just play the recording after class. Okay, so I'm going to post the recording of this lecture after class. Okay, let's see the other one, the question that you had, Christina. So you wanted to do sensor. Okay. So what does sensor do? It takes a file and then opens it, and censor any word that has a length of 4 letters, right? So if any word has 4 letters, it replaces it with XXX. So I'm gonna do 2 things. I'm gonna open my file for reading and the censored file for writing. Yeah, so I have 2 files. One is the one I'm reading, one is the one I am writing into. Okay, so one is R, one is. Okay, then I'm gonna loop over the first file, the one I'm reading from. I'm gonna try to find the words. So remember that reads line by line. So I'm gonna create a list of all the words in a particular line by doing line.split. And then I check if okay, I loop over these words, right? So let's say the line was something like this. I am cool. Okay. The following, right? This statement would do the following: would create a list which contains this as first element, this as the second element, and this at the third element. Okay. Now I'm looping over these guys, and I checked, right? So this is just to handle the full stop. So a full stop, if I am cool like this, right, with a full stop, then this thing would be 5 characters, right? So I'm just making sure that I don't count the full stop in my counting. So if the word contains a full stop, then the length of the word in total should be 5. Yeah, if I want to censor it, or if I need to censor it, because it's like 4 letters plus the full stop. So I'm checking if the length of the word is equal to 5, including the full stop. If yes, replace the word with XXX and full stop. Okay. Otherwise, just output the word as this, right? So it's contains full stop and its length is not 5. So it's greater or smaller than 5. So I should not censor it. So I'm outputting the word as. Okay. If the word doesn't contain a full stop, I'm going to check whether it's 4 characters or 4 letters long. So I'm checking if the length of word equal to 4. If yes, again, output XXX, right? Otherwise, you output the word. Like punctuation, exactly. Here, I assume just that you're using full stop. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Christina. Like line, exactly, Jet, right? Yes, Christina, go ahead. No, lines is not going to be replaced. Lines is going to be in this else, right? So if I have lines, then I'm going to say, it doesn't contain a full stop. So I'm going to get into the else, correct? This is the else for this F. And so I'm going to check lines is not for characters. But why do you want to? It doesn't say this. It just says, every letter, every word that is 4 characters long or 4 letters long has to be replaced by XXX. But if you have a ruler of a word, you should not be replacing it by X. At least that's my understanding of the exercise. Okay? Yeah, when you wrote your solution, what happened? Okay? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, then we have a small bug. Let's run it on example.py, and then we can look at what could be the issue. Let me run it on the example. Okay. So all I did was basically just replace any word that has 4 characters by XXX and wrote this in the output file. Looped over the input file and wrote. Okay. And now I'm going to read the names of the files from the command line argument. Python sensor.py example, I think, .txt sensor.txt. Okay, so I gave it 2 names. One is for the for the example, and one is for. Okay, so let's try it out. I ran it, did something, and it printed. It created a file sensor.txt. If you see right now. So let's see example first. .txt. This is what it has. It has the following. The 3 lines in this file end with the new line character. Okay. There is a blank line above this line. Okay. So which words should be censored in this file? Can somebody tell me? This file with line, right? And this. Okay, exactly. Right? So let's see if it worked correctly. So censor.txt. The 3 lines in XXX, right? So here's the actual file. So the 3 lines in XXX, file XXX, and with XXX, the new XXX character. There is a blank XXX above XXX, and then full stop. Okay, so why do you think you have this issue? So you're saying it's censored line, right? Lines. So it wrote line, and then so without really seeing your code, Christina, I'm not sure why it's doing this. You used dot replace where? Which part of the code? Can you explain this a little bit more, Christina? Okay, length of equal 4, then. You don't want to replace the word. You wanna you wanna print it out in the other file. Yeah. So I'm not sure how you're replacing you want to replace the word, right? So you just say, okay, if the word has the current word that I'm reading from the first file is of length 4, then output in the output file XXX. Yeah, but even if you do replace, I don't know exactly what you're doing. We can look at your code if you want after the class. Okay, you can share screen with me and show me your code if you want, and we go through it. Okay. Because it's very difficult to anticipate what you're doing. Just stay after class and I will have a look quickly on your code. Okay, no problem. Okay, guys, so other questions, other concerns? Okay, good luck today. Again, don't panic, try to manage your time. And how would you say what? I personally don't find it very difficult, right? So I think, maybe one question is slightly challenging, but overall most of the exam is straightforward. Please do not get hooked up on one question. Please make sure you write a solution for every question, attempt a solution for every question, as much as you can. How does it compare to assignments, for example? I think the assignments are longer. Some of them are more difficult, some of them are more easy. So it's an average, not really more difficult than the assignment overall, but it's not like, simple, right? Like some of the questions in the assignment, particularly the first ones, usually in the assignment, So it's reasonable. Trust me, it's reasonable. You just need to be calm. I know nerves can get the best of you, so you just need to calm down, chill, and just take it as a challenge, and do your best. That's all that matters. You get grades on everything you write. So the TAs are going to read your solutions, whether they're working correctly or not, and really assess based on how you do. You can, it should work. If it doesn't work, I personally haven't tried it, but it should work. If it doesn't work, let us know. If you're needing it and it doesn't work, I can try it out later and see. You can have notes with you. Yes, there's no problem. It's an open book exam, but you cannot allow to use the internet. You're not allowed to have other devices with you, right? So really you can print out something if you want and have it with you, but you really should not be using any other device. Sounds good? Other questions? Okay, then. Today I have a really, really busy day, so I'll try my best. If you have questions, I'll try my best to answer them, but I can't promise. So I really have a full day starting from right after class until maybe 7 or 8 p.m. So really, it's gonna, but I'll try. Okay. Other questions? Okay, then good luck, and I'll see you on Monday. You're welcome.